the stuff that we're going to compost today. And this is stuff that I've been saving that we cook with, and stuff that goes bad in the fridge, and this is what we end up with. So we got some coffee grinds in there, and some old corn on the cob, and a couple of oranges that went bad, some salad that went bad. Instead of throwing it away, we're gonna feed the worms with it. And this is how I store it also. When I make my coffee in the morning, I keep one of these kind of in the kitchen, and I put eggshells and, you know, lettuce that went bad and stuff like that, and I save it all during the week to feed my worms. This is old on newspaper and junk mail that comes into the house that I make good use of. It's stuff that we use as a bedding for worm composting, and after the worms are done eating this and the food that I add to it, it turns into a beautiful compost that I feed to my plants. What I have here is I have a bin that I made out of recycling bins, and the top bin has a bunch of holes in the bottom of it so it doesn't get too moist. You don't want your worm compost to get too moist. There's a good balance. Also, if you notice, there's little holes in the side. You want the holes up top for aeration. It's got to breathe. So I not only drilled holes in the bottom of it, but I drilled holes in the side here also so that air will get in there. Very simple. So what I start with is a shredded newspaper that you saw in the house. I use that as a medium to start, and this one's kind of matured at this point, so you don't see any of that. A lot of it's already decomposed. But we're gonna feed the worms right now, and we're gonna use this little rake, and we're gonna pull everything to one side. And it kind of looks like mud. It's got all kinds of microorganisms and good stuff for plants in it. And what I'll do is I'll actually dump it on one side. There's coffee grinds in there also. I got some lemons that I got from the yard and some corn husks. You put it on one side, and if you also notice, the coffee filter, we leave that right in there. That's something that the worms will actually decompose, and then you just kind of bury it. Now this here is a little bit moist. So at some point what I'm going to do is I'm going to add more of the newspaper. The shredded newspaper is something that I use to balance my moisture. Because the newspaper is very dry, it's almost like a sawdust in a way. I have used sawdust, it doesn't work as well as the paper does. When it starts to get too moist, that can be bad. So we got a lot of moisture in there. I feed them kind of heavy. And to balance it out, I'll actually take the newspaper and I'll mix it in here, and I'll dry up some of the moisture with the newspaper. It breaks down and becomes part of the whole compost medium. A lot of people ask what you do with the compost after it's made. What I do is I amend my soil with it, which makes really good nutrients for the plants that I'm going to plant, usually vegetables. So here's my containers, and I'm going to actually dig a hole. And I don't worry about taking the worms out of this. I want worms in my soil because they're very beneficial. So I'll take my finished compost with the worms. You see the worms in there? These are red wiggler worms, by the way. They're called manure worms, and they're a specialty worm for composting. So I'm going to take that whole thing and put it right in there. Okay, and that's it. Simple as that. I get to get rid of kitchen waste in a real positive way. Garbage mail that comes to my house, I get to shred and incorporate it back into, you know, a real positive way. It's not getting thrown in a landfill. It actually becomes a medium which turns into a substance that my plants are going to eat, and it improves the structure of your soil. It's very beneficial in a lot of ways. The benefit, which you don't see right now, is when I have my beautiful plants here of tomatoes that get this big, and, you know, without the use of chemicals, it's all natural. I'd rather go natural. That's what I'm all about.